let's transition. Let's go to some NBA and let's talk about Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies. Ja Morant came back with vengeance and was balling Tuesday night in New Orleans as the Memphis Grizzlies beat the New Orleans Pelicans 115 to 113. Ja Morant hit the game-winning shot as time expired for the Memphis Grizzlies. He had 34 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, shot 12 of 24 from the floor. Didn't make any of his threes, but he had a great performance in his first game returning back from suspension. And the Grizzlies also beat the Pacers last night, 116 to 103 in that matchup last night. Ja Morant, he had 20 points, shot 7 of 16 from the floor, 8 assists. So, my thought process on the Memphis Grizzlies and how I view the Memphis Grizzlies, if you're asking the question, do I believe the Memphis Grizzlies can make the playoffs now that Ja Morant is back in the mix and playing at a high level? The answer is an emphatic hell yeah. Have y'all watched and understood who the hell Ja Morant is? Ja Morant instantly in his first game back with the Memphis Grizzlies, we witnessed Ja Morant have a significant impact on the Memphis Grizzlies as a basketball team. I remember throughout the season, the Grizzlies were struggling. They were struggling and they couldn't win games, and everybody was asking, like, what the hell is going on with the Memphis Grizzlies? Because they were struggling, and before Ja Morant came back, they were 6-19, and they were the 13th seed in the Western Conference. And everybody was wondering, like, what's going on with the Memphis Grizzlies? And, like, are they missing Dylan Brooks? Are they missing Steven Adams? Are they missing Brandon Clark? No, they were missing Ja Morant. Some things in life are simple, folks. Some stuff in life is simple. And when you get back a player the caliber of a Ja Morant, you instantly have confidence as a basketball team, and you feel like when we got that guy, we can beat anybody. We can beat anybody. You look at Ja Morant and his effect on the Memphis Grizzlies as a basketball team. This was on Tuesday night against the Pelicans. So the Grizzlies, they were on a 5-game losing streak. During their 5-game losing streak, without Morant, they were averaging 103 points per game. With Morant, they scored 115 against the Pelicans Tuesday night. Their offensive rating without Ja Morant during their 5-game losing streak was 102.8. With Ja Morant, it was 118.6. During their 5-game losing streak without Morant, they had 9.4 in second chance points. With Ja Morant, 17 second chance points. And points off turnovers during their 5-game losing streak without Ja Morant, it was 16.8. With Ja Morant, it was 21. So instantly, Ja Morant's impact on the Memphis Grizzlies as a basketball team has shown in these last 2 games for the Grizzlies as they beat the New Orleans Pelicans and the Indiana Pacers. It is clear who the man is in Memphis. And that's the thing about Ja Morant, because we never had questions about the caliber of player that Ja Morant is. I felt like coming into the NBA, remember that draft? The Pelicans, they drafted Zion Williamson over Ja Morant. And now that we are looking back, can we say, and we can say with like confidence, and we can say definitively that the New Orleans Pelicans might have made a mistake drafting Zion Williamson over Ja Morant, because Ja Morant is the real deal. He's the real deal. And as great as Zion Williamson is when he's at his best, and as great as his upside is, Zion Williamson has not produced at the level that Ja Morant has produced at since they've both been in the NBA. I'm watching this Grizzlies Pelicans game Tuesday night, and I'm thinking to myself, the New Orleans Pelicans made a mistake drafting Zion Williamson over Ja Morant. I'm watching it in real time. And his first game back, Ja Morant drops 34 in his first game back and hits the game winner. And I love in the post-game press conference, you heard Ja Morant talk about how he went to Desmond Bane during the timeout, and he said, well, maybe we can set something up for Jaren Jackson. And Desmond Bane looked at Ja Morant and said, no, the hell we not. We giving you the basketball, and it's time to dance and win this basketball game. He pretty much said, we giving our best player the basketball, and we're going to ride out with Ja Morant. And so the Memphis Grizzlies weren't losing because they didn't have Dylan Brooks. They weren't losing because they didn't have Steven Adams. They weren't losing because they didn't have Brandon Clark. They were losing because they didn't have their best player in Ja Morant, a top 8 player in the NBA. That's the reason why they were 6-19 before he returned back to the floor Tuesday night. And you look at his impact overall, this is in the last 2 seasons. This is the Memphis Grizzlies with and without Morant. With Ja Morant, the Memphis Grizzlies, they are 40-21. So they win 66% of their games with Morant. And their points per game differential is plus 5.3. Without Ja Morant, the Grizzlies are 17-27, which means they win 39% of their games without him. And their points per game differential is a minus 3.3. So it is clear that in order for the Memphis Grizzlies to not contend, but compete, in order for the Memphis Grizzlies to compete, they need Ja Morant in the mix and playing at a high level to have a chance. So, again, if you asking the question, can the Memphis Grizzlies get back into the playoff race and make the playoffs? The answer is yes, as long as they have Ja Morant. But this is according to ESPN's analytics. So this is the rest of the season scenarios for the Memphis Grizzlies. So in order for the Grizzlies, this was after their win against the Pelicans Tuesday night. In order for the Grizzlies to reach 45 wins, they would have to go 38-18, and they possibly could make the playoffs, and that's at 45 wins. In order for them to go at least 500, they would have to go 34-22. So it's going to be interesting. Last year, they won 62% of their games, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do the remainder of the season. But I do believe that they can creep their way back into the playoff race as long as they got number 12. As long as they got number 12 in the lineup, they can compete in the Western Conference and possibly get into at least the play-in. At least the play-in. Again, right now, they are the 13th team in the Western Conference. So we'll see what happens as the season goes along. But I do believe that the Grizzlies can creep their way back into the playoff race. But, yes, man, I watched that game start to finish. And, yes, Morant, he went 0-5 from three-point range, but he was a little winded. You could tell. First game back, haven't played in 25 games, but he was winded. But I love the fact that Ja Morant is ready to play at an elite level and lead this Memphis Grizzlies basketball team. I love it. I really, really do. And I want Ja Morant. You heard him in the post-game press conference. He was talking about how he kept receipts and so forth. I'm here for it. I want Morant to take it personal, that because I think he was saying that during his suspension, nobody reached out to him in the NBA. None of his contemporaries reached out to him. So I want him to take it. I want him to, take it to heart and come back with a vengeance the remainder of the season. That's exactly what the Memphis Grizzlies need if they're going to creep they were back into the playoff mix. So they need that. But it was a great performance from him. And the thing is, too, I remember last year in the playoffs. I got to say this before I move on. Last year in the playoffs, LeBron and AD, they threw a party against the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, they dominated the Memphis Grizzlies in that playoff series. And we saw Morant and Jaren Jackson and Desmond Bane. They were joking on the sideline. And I'm thinking to myself, you down 25 to the Lakers. Like, you have to take this serious. So I hope the Memphis Grizzlies as a basketball team, and specifically Ja Morant, I hope they understand that this season, if they make the playoffs, you can't accept being blown out in a closeout game to a team like the LA Lakers. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. So I hope Ja Morant takes it personal when he listens to NBA analysts and sports personalities like myself, when he listens to the things that people say about the Memphis Grizzlies as a basketball team. Take it personal. Because it was unacceptable what happened last year in that playoff series against the LA Lakers. I mean, they got blown off the floor, and I think that was in Game 6, if I'm not mistaken. Game 6, if I'm not mistaken, the Memphis Grizzlies got completely blown out by the LA Lakers. It was a flat-out beatdown that took place at the Crypto.com arena. I hate calling it that. I still call it Staples, but yeah. So I hope they can if they get into the playoffs, they take it personal and can perhaps go on a deep playoff run. But those are my thoughts on Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies.